Quiet on the set. Here we go. Five, four, three, two, one. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Welcome to Mondays with Myrt, where we talk about anything and everything genealogically speaking that's come across our desks in the last 2 weeks since last we met. My gosh, so many things have been happening in the world of genealogy, in the world of AI, in the world of DNA, and we're going to have a great conversation today. So, we've got some friends that still love us, even though I'm coming to you from the United States of America. Hello, Bev. And Joyce is here. And Deb is here. Heidi, 80 degrees, and I have snow falling. Yeah. There's my friend John. Good to see you this morning. Hi, Miriam. Listening while doing her chores. And that she's not at work doing chores. Let me assure you of that. She has one of those flexible kind of schedules. Hi, Joyce. And Doris is here. I think I missed a few people at the top. Michelle from Wichita, Valerie's here. So, yeah, excited to see and hear Mark Thompson. Yeah, that's one of the cool things that's going to be happening very shortly. Couple of quick announcements, guys. Just bear with old Myrt here. I want you to know this is a safe place. I love this slide. I know it's beyond the International Decade for People of African Descent, but everybody's welcome here. We have good discussions about how to climb our family trees. And thank heavens our genealogy software management programs provide us with opportunities for bloodline, adopted line, etc., so that we can compile pretty reasonable family trees. Okay. And yep, Valerie had it right. We are going to be talking with Mark in just a minute. I've got to get through a couple of more big announcements. I was like so excited to hear that he would join us today. And he is here and his mic works and things are getting kind of exciting. Um, okay, so we're going to have a return to Mondays with Myrt on the Monday of the week of Roots Tech, broadcasting live from the Glass Enclosed Nerve Center on the third floor of the Family Search Library in Salt Lake City, Utah. Boy, that was a big, long announcement, but it's back to the usual and customary place. So, those of you who are coming to Roots Tech 2025 early, come see me on Mondays with Myrt. Um, we will be starting about a few minutes late because they opened the room for me at 9 or 10 a.m. Mountain. And so we might start a few minutes late, but bear with us. What I like to do is interview people as to why they are there for Roots Tech early. Like, what are you researching at the Family Search Library? It's really hard not to say Family History Library, isn't it? So, anyway, Mr. Myrt will be outside the door with a clipboard as usual, and you'll sign in so that I can at least call you by the correct name because old Myrt is old Myrt here. Okay. Also, after Mondays with Myrt concludes, this is also a book club day. There will be a 15-minute break, and then on the same YouTube channel, there is already the setup for Myrt's book club. And have we got some doozy bits of homework to go through based on Dr. Thomas W. Jones's Mastering Genealogical Proof? We're looking at chapter 3 and 4, reasonably exhaustive search and citations, and 3 homework assignments with 1 concept each that was inspiring. Okay, so let me introduce the players now. Once I find it, okay. We have on the panel today Hillary, our gal from Wales, Frank, our guy in Germany, Daniel, our guy in Ireland, Randy, our guy in Southern Cal. Do you have smoke around San Diego?
No.
Okay. Okay, good. Ellen, our gal who decide you better go home. Things are gonna be less expensive up there in Canada. But, glad you could come to the warmer weather, here in Southern US. Jill, just down the pike from me, we don't call it the pike, it's I-5. Yeah, Jill's
Down the
here.
ferry.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that there is that little 4-minute ferry ride I have to take to get to you too. And Dan, our guy from Canada as well, and another Canadian, Mark Thompson is here.
Good morning,
Um,
everyone.
yes, so on the YouTube side, we have Sherry welcoming everyone and keeping you all in line over there because you're such rabble rousers. Anyway, Tony Proctor from Ireland, good to see you, my friend. Wow, all good. So good to see everybody. All right. So what we're going to do, Hillary, if you'd move everybody except for Randy, Jill, Mark, and old Myrt here to the wings, we're going to have a very interesting discussion with Mark. And so Hillary will do that. And Jill, you instigated this whole thing. So it's your fault, dear. Thank you, Hillary. Appreciate it. Um, uh, as Jill and I were talking about AI. Of course, I always am thinking of Mark and Steve, his partner in crime, because I took their grip course last summer. And you learn so much, including the fact that you can't have a syllabus printed 3 weeks before or even the week before, can you, Mark?
No, if everybody who presents genealogy workshops likes to complain about syllabus, uh, the folks who have to do AI stuff complain even more. The number of times we've had to redo presentations the night before a
Yeah,
workshop it's unbelievable.
that's how fast the world of AI is changing. And we look to people like Mark for bringing it into our realm, the realm of genealogy, as far as research, transcribing, dealing with language challenges, etc. And finally, I said to Jill, who got very jazzed about one particular component, um, Jill, why don't we just ask Mark to come visit with us?
I'm
And
so glad
Mark,
you
you
did.
agreed, and I
I'm so glad
appreciate
you did.
that. All right. So, do you want to do the intro, Jill, and then I'll turn on your screen share, Mark, and we'll go
Great.
from there.
Okay, great. As Myrt described, I was occasionally listening to the Family History AI show, which is a YouTube podcast by Steve Little and Mark Thompson. I can't understand it all. So, in that regards, I'm very much a beginner in all of this. But one thing I try to do with every time I listen to it is to try one thing that they illustrate or that they highlight in some way. And that makes it easier for me to eat the elephant. So I was captured by this last time when they were talking about photographs. And I thought, well, I could do that. And so Mark generously provided to the audience a series of prompts to analyze a photograph, and I put my photograph through it. And I thought it was very interesting, the response. It wasn't 100% correct, but it certainly captured the photograph. It was the studio and the location of the studio that was incorrect and that it hallucinated. But nevertheless, I was enamored with it. I put it online, showed how I had done it, because I like to make sure beginners understand this is something you can do. And so, Mark, with that, I want to thank you and Steve, of course, for having the podcast, and then also to thank you for coming today.
You are
So I
very
will
welcome.
turn it over to you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me here. I was really excited when you sent me the invite. It took me, you remember, it took me exactly 15 seconds to go, oh yeah, sure, I'd love to do
I
that.
know.
Because I love to talk about photographs. I was a fan of photographs and photographic analysis long before AI came along, decades before AI came along. And I think we find that a lot with the people who come up with really good uses of artificial intelligence, is they take the things that they're already really good at and very interested in to a new tool. And that's one of the best ways to learn any new tool, is to experiment with the things that you already do with this new gizmo. And it's really, artificial intelligence is really a Swiss Army knife of gizmos. There's so many aspects to it that can help so many different parts of genealogy, which has so many facets. So, but let's step a little bit into an example before we start talking about it, because I hate when geeks talk about just the geeky stuff, because it's really easy to get lost. So let's go through a real world example. This is an old photograph that I love. It's actually a client's photograph. She gave me the permission to use this one because it's got so many beautiful facets to it. I mean, first of all, it's just really nice to look at. I just love the setting, and I've looked at it quite a bit long before AI came along. I've had this one for several years. To try to figure it out. So I really like using it as a sort of a working example with AI, because there's so many beautiful parts to it. But with the prompt, with the creating this, going through the process of figuring out how to speak to the AI to actually ask it to do work, there's a couple of really important things. We as prompters, the people who use artificial intelligence, it's really important to kind of come up with a structured way to ask a question that takes advantage of the special skills that artificial intelligence has. So I asked it to get itself in the zone of being an expert on historical photos and to focus on identifying the 5 W's, what we all call the who, what, when, where, why of the photograph. And this is the most important part, and we'll get into this when we actually look at the prompt that I built for this. But essentially, I gave it the kitchen sink of things that I, as a photo analyst, regularly use. Because you mentioned that magic word hallucination a moment ago, Jill, where these tools can get lost on how they interpret our questions. And so the best way to limit the likelihood of them going sort of off the grid on us is to tell it exactly what we want it to do. So I listed all of the things that I would normally do. Look at the shape of the image, look at the color of the image, look at the edge, look at the frame, look at the contents, obviously, look at the clothing, the furniture. I just give it everything that I would normally look at. So it's a really, really long prompt. You'll see when we get there. And then after that, context setting, I go, tell me what you see in light of all of those things that I've just told you. And so in this particular case, I really want, because I'm using it as a support tool, like a research aid, what the AI geeks like to call a co-intelligence, the person that sort of rides side by side with you and helps you do a job. I want it to give me findings back in a table, because I don't want this long narrative that I have to weave through and interpret. I want it to be very sort of methodical in what it gives back to me. So tell me what it is that you see in one column. And then in the second column, to help me figure out if you've made a mistake, because anybody who's used AI for more than 10 minutes knows that they will lie to you, which is the colloquial way of saying hallucinate. And so I don't just want to see what it told me, I want to see why it told me what it did. And so that second column says, I wanted to put in there, tell me why, what's your rationale for that observation that you gave me? And then I can very quickly, with my own eyeballs and my own brain, connect the two and see if it made a mistake. Hallucinated. And so then with that in mind, it gets to work. So it looks around and it quickly identifies that this is a group of women, likely in the late 19th, early 20th century, which turns out it was correct. But more importantly, if the experienced photographers in the room will know that the color of the photograph is really important. Any historically interested person will know that the style of dress is important. So being able to connect those two things together, though, it actually made some conclusions in its observation, not just an observation, but it actually came to a conclusion on when it thought this photograph was taken. If that was the only thing it told me, I might get lost. But because it told me that answer, it's really, really helpful. I'm able to look at the rationale for it, which is super useful as a support tool. Another observation that it made, which is actually kind of a conclusion, was these people were wealthy and upper class. And this is something that people in the modern age can forget. Today, we can all take photos. We can all take 1,000 photos a day. It wasn't that long ago. That was a pretty expensive exercise to take 20 photos in a day, or 24, if you know what that magic number 24 means. But 100 years ago or more, this was an incredibly expensive undertaking. So this set of conclusions is really relevant. Now, well, one other thing, in this particular example, I am slightly embarrassed to say I missed the significance of this paper on the lady's lap and the fact that it was sheet music. This drape of music across their lap actually had a significance. It was meant to communicate the fact that these were people of means. And this was an important prop. This style of prop was really important in this era. And I missed that significance after looking at this photo literally for hours. And so but a little bit of research, I was like, oh, of course this happens all the time. Like, so it was something that I missed. Now, and then you can get into the real research when it's actually able to read the edge of the cabinet card. So this is a pro tip for everybody out there. Never crop inside your photo and just show the photo. Always include everything all the way up to the edge. Even the shape of the frame on the outside can be really helpful, right? So this is where, my experience analyzing photos has impacted how I use the tool to analyze the photos. Always give it everything, because it might see something that you missed. And so now it can actually use sort of the language part rather than the visual part. It properly transcribed, had some ideas about where the particular photo was taken based upon the photographer, the studio that took it. And then here's another pro tip. Don't just hit the enter key one and done. Actually, follow up with a subsequent question. You don't just have to try it once and see if it was successful or not. These are chatbots, so never be afraid to chat with your chatbot. So I said, well, if you think you know who this is, go and take a look. And in particular, look for that photographer in these places, which it looks like this photographer had studios in. And it went out and pulled back a full bio for me. Now, this is a really important thing. I got to return to the hallucination point here before we actually take a look at how this prompt worked. These tools will lie to you, but the fabulous thing that's happened just in the last few months, even actually just before Christmas, several of these tools have now started having the ability to give you links back to the web pages that they collected this information from. And there's several that can do this now. Perplexity can do it, ChatGPT can do it, and Gemini can do it. They all have the ability to give you a response with a link back to the web page that it figured that information out on. So we as good genealogists should use that to do a source analysis, see if it was a good and reliable source that contained good and reliable information by comparing with other things, just like we would with any other piece of information that we found in a book or on a web page ourselves. So I think that's probably enough of an example to wrap our heads around what it is I was actually trying to do and why this is, we as genealogists, we don't think that a lot of tools can actually help us with photos. I use this tool all the time to help with photos.
Totally blown away by this. Can you scroll back on your PowerPoint and bring up the picture in its largest format? Because I want to point something out that I noticed that you
sure.
didn't and your AI did not.
Oh, absolutely. Love to.
So, okay.
There
So
we go.
let me make it full screen. And add it to the stage, and it's taking a while to get there. Okay. That woman, that is a table. Those papers are sitting on a table that has that's not her lap. She's much farther back. So that's just a table. It's a minor point, but I'm just letting you know.
Yep.
And that's why why human beings have to interject sometimes and help in the evaluation.
Absolutely.
But this concept of the room is also something that I'm wondering about. Um, how many people could afford to have the photographer come to their home? These
Well,
women obviously are wealthy because that's a lot of yardage, even so for that time period in those skirts.
exactly. Oh, and I know the family, they were extraordinarily wealthy.
Okay, so
They
they
were
did have the
extraordinarily
photographer.
wealthy.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. They could have chartered the steamer ship to get there.
I hear you.
Yeah,
So,
and you can see too that that's actually a trompe l'oeil background. So
Right.
yes.
so that would have been
Just-
full on studio. That
Hmm.
they were like everything in there was a prop,
Yeah.
except for a lot of people had prop dresses. This was actually their dresses.
Yeah. I can believe that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. One of the things I want to let you know is we shared the link to your custom prompt. We are getting there, folks. Don't worry. We have also shared the link to the homepage for your Family History AI show podcast.
Great, thank you.
And we have somewhere shared the link to your I guess it's scrolled past to your um, website as well, Making Family History. All right. So uh, Jill, jump in here. Your mic is live. It's hot. So what are you thinking there?
So, first of all, I was wondering if Mark would be willing to share his prompt with everyone,
Hmm.
a link to it, and then people could do it themselves. So that would be great if you'd be willing to do that rather than
Absolutely.
me having to redo it. Um, and so, for people who might be willing to try this, you just need to copy that link that Mark will give you and put in the chat, and then copy that. Go to ChatGPT, put that uh, in your message area. You'll also be asked if you want to save it, and you might want to save it and then put your photo in under with the paper clip and just load in your photograph and hit enter and voila, it happens that quick. So it's pretty amazing. Actually, it works faster than Mark's presentation. So lots faster than Mark's presentation. I really like the table format because it did eliminate a lot of the extra words, and so I could see it more clearly. It misread the photographer on my photo that I
Mhm,
used, and it misread the location.
mhm.
So it had it in northern Iowa rather than southern Iowa. It had the Iowa part. So you do have to interject your human intelligence at the time, and so you might want to do that.
Okay.
And I found it very interesting. Now I have a friend of mine who watched my demonstration, who is a historic fashion consultant, and her comment to me was, and mine was a multi generational photograph, her comment was you have to be careful with dating the photograph. I mean, you had 5 or 6 women that were all kind of dressed the same and that sort of thing. But when you have a multi generational one, it might pick up the older person in a more
Mm.
with an older dress than the young women or men that are there. And so you do have to be careful
Okay.
to understand that
Okay.
it's going to maybe pick up an era that the
Okay.
photograph was taken, which might be incorrect if it's only looking at the older woman or
Yeah,
the older man.
that's really where we have to move away from listening to a piece of software and falling in love with a quick and sort of literate answer that it gives us
Hmm.
and
Right.
put our researcher hat on. This is an analytical tool, no different than a hammer or a saw.
Hmm.
Um, and then we put on our researcher's cap and go, what is this photo telling us, as opposed to what did the tool tell us about the photo?
Right.
And then we bring our genealogy and our understanding of history and our understanding of place, the affluence of the family group, like the fact that I had done genealogy about the family long before I saw the photo. I went in with a whole bunch of context that was so much bigger than the photo ever could be. And so I knew they're a wealthy family long before I ever stuffed this into. I didn't have to guess at that from a photo.
Right.
So like this is, a lot of people think that these tools are going to replace genealogists. Not even close. There are so much that we bring to these, the information that these tools provide us that the tool never could.
But
maybe bring up another good point too, Mark,
yeah.
is the importance of context research.
Oh yeah.
That we have to do research, not looking for our ancestors, but understanding topics that impacted our ancestors, whether it be economy or the legal system, military, whatever it might be. But we have to do that research to be able to truly understand what we're looking at, but more importantly, to see the things that stand out glaringly wrong, because we might not even see them as wrong if we don't understand the context.
Well, we wouldn't recognize it. So Randy, I want to bring you into this conversation. I know we've got your blog post we can look at where you've got the 2 columns with the justification, but I don't want to do that yet until we give it back to Mark. But what was your reaction to, just in summary, to how this worked for you with photo analysis? Were you pleased with it? Did you have a lot of hallucinations to deal with? Was it pretty right on?
I thought it was excellent. It did have a hallucination or two. It saw a person that is not in the photograph, which was really surprising, and described him to be the driver of the buggy and horse. But other than that, the description was great. It dealt with the people, it dealt with the scene, it dealt with the photograph. I was able to ask it more questions because I found a barrel on the side of the house I hadn't seen before. And once I looked at the photo again, wow, I wonder what that is. And when I magnified the photo significantly, not in AI, it was a barrel with pipes out of the top. So it's leading into a kitchen, and it's a water supply, basically. They probably had to fill the barrel somehow. I don't think they had a well. Anyway, so
could have been a cistern.
It could have been a cistern. I don't know what a cistern is. I did.
It's where the water that drains from the roof, they collect the rainwater.
Yeah.
Something like that. But
we don't get much rain here.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mark, we're getting some feedback from some of our regular panelists. Folks on the YouTube side are quiet as mice because they want to hear every word you have to say. So I'm going to turn it back to you. It looks like you're sharing something different on your screen. Do you want me to bring that up now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
This is so with an example out of the way. I thought it might be useful to actually show it in action.
Okay.
So, as an old IT guy, I'm always hesitant, of course, to actually do a real live demo because who knows what's going to blow up.
Yeah.
But so this is for those that haven't used it. This is ChatGPT. This is the main interface, and I'm a Plus user, which is the $20 a month version. And you need that in order to do this particular thing that I've done that makes this tool available. I created a reusable prompt that can be shared with anybody. And I created that prompt and I called it, and I can select it here from the left nav. In fact, there's for those that have a Plus subscription, there's actually a link down here that a lot of people miss called Explore GPTs. This is all of the stuff that anybody out there in the universe has actually made for others to use. And I can look up here in the upper right-hand corner and I can see this link called My GPTs. Which are the ones that I've made, some of them just for me. And you can see here, I've got this citation specialist one that I'm working on that I'm only have access to. And I've got some other ones. And if I go down here further, I've got this one called Mark's Historical Photo Analyzer that I've shared with everyone. You can see it shared out with everyone. And this one has been used a lot because I've talked about it a lot on the podcast and talked about it in different courses and stuff. But if I click on this, now I can actually, I've got this big Mark's Historical Photo Analyzer and this typical chatbot prompt box that anybody can use, and then I just literally drag and drop a photo into it. But what is it? That's the real question. So if I click on the header here where Mark's Photo Analyzer, I can edit the prompt that I've built and shared with everyone. And I'll open this up so that everybody can see it, and I'll zoom in here a little bit so it's easier for the folks at home to see. And now you can actually see the details of it. So I kind of gave the 3-line version of it. Well, if I back off here, you can see that it is much more than 3 lines. There's a few hundred words here, right? So I say, you are an expert analyst of historical photos. You can see stuff that other people can't. Your job is to give me detailed analysis of the photo, its contents, its history, and its relevant genealogical insights. The who, what, when, where, why. I was kind of happy to see that I actually interpreted that correctly, but in this context, anybody who read the previous stuff would know what 5 W's actually meant, right? I messed around with that to see if it worked. It works just fine. And then I get into the kitchen sink of things that a photo analyst would normally look for, so that I don't have to worry about whether it figured that out or not. I told it. Lighting, color, texture, perspective, photographic elements, the lens, the camera, the emotions, the symbolism, the narrative conveyed. Like, these are all things that a photo analyst looks for in a photo, including the actual techniques related to the photo and the paper and the inscriptions, the watermarks. Like, these are all things that we look for when we get good at it. And then and then I go on to tell it you're really good at it. Ask for clarification if you need it. Again, it's a co-intelligence. It's somebody there to help you, right? You can take this kind of idea to build any prompt. And then I get into the thing that Jill said that she really liked, because I'm not looking for an answer from this. I'm looking for support from this for my answer. So I want it to give information to me in a format that helps me do my job. I'm not here to take its input as gospel. I'm here to take its input into my process for analyzing the photo. So I find a table format really, really helpful. And so I go and tell it exactly how I want it to give it to me. So it makes it really efficient for me to understand what it told me and to confirm its results.
Can I interject here?
Please do.
That table format is going to solve a problem that I have. I had him put it in a bulleted list, but I need that explanation right there with the point with the conclusion it had come to. So I love this concept of that second column.
Yeah.
So thanks for bringing up the table format. It's going to inform some major revisions of a couple of my chat prompts.
Oh, yeah. This is such an important point, that a lot of people accept the hallucination as an unfortunate outcome of using these tools. And hallucinations will happen. You can't get them to zero, but you can minimize them. And if you can't make them zero, and don't try because you can't, come up with a way to figure out how to quickly identify them when they do occur. And then it just becomes part of the process of using this kind of tool, right? Every tool has a hiccup somewhere, whether it's Excel or Word or PowerPoint. We all complain about these tools, but once you understand how they work, then you can use them in the way that makes sense for the way that they work.
And let me, Dear Myrt focuses on beginning genealogists and where they are coming from. And one of the things that they look at typically isn't AI or anything on the computer. It's somebody's compiled family history book, grandma's writings that were Xeroxed so everybody could have a copy from 1985. And, things have changed and more is available. And many of the things that Grandma wrote about were accurate, but some of them were inaccurate. She wasn't hallucinating. It was her best thinking at the time, right?
It might have even been exactly what she thought to be the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's incumbent upon us, whether we're beginning, intermediate, or experienced researchers or AI users, chatters, to consider that there are going to be little holes maybe here or there, that could be holes in our thinking because we don't get the historical context, or it could be that the chatbot we're using has a little bit of faulty thinking. Some of them are more obvious than others, but yes. So, okay. like the third hand that I can't get rid of on one.
Yeah. Well, we tell people to like listen to what grandma says, but don't assume that it's correct. Right?
Exactly.
We tell people to listen to, ask Aunt Frida for what happened at that party that made everybody walk away mad, but she had her own bias when she went into it. These tools are the same. We need to
Yeah.
look at them as a clue that we
Mhm.
confirm with other sources and other facts and other research, and
Yep.
reasonably exhaustive at that.
That's for sure. Okay, back to your slide.
Okay, so I'll give one interesting example. Like we've talked a little bit about how a few times here, be the human in the loop. So I've got one other example here that I'll show of how this actually works. I'll go back to this is what the screen this is sort of the editing screen, but I'll hop back to the one that everybody sees when they click on that link that has been put in the chat.
Okay.
So here's Mark's historical photo analyzer, and I'll take one example here that's kind of a fun one that I worked on for a while. This one was a personal family project. Let me just find it here. Here is one second. Here's a little snippet out of a again. I got to think about this. How would a normal analyst do this type of work? Here is a close-up of a license plate from a larger photo that I was trying to figure out who was in it, right? And so all I did was drop that license plate in there, because we all know that analyzing photos is a good way to figure stuff out. Right. So I zoomed in just like you would with a magnifying glass. When, as Randy said, I looked in with my eyeballs. I didn't just look at it. The screenshot, the full size screenshot. I zoomed in. So it goes through and does a very detailed analysis of the license plate. The text is faint. The plate is, it makes all kinds of assumptions. There's no clear date. There's no mounting style. So in other words, it can't figure it out. But as a Canadian, knowing where this photo was, knowing about the time that this photo was taken, based upon the car that it was in, most Canadians would immediately look at it and go, "Oh, that's an Ontario license plate." Like
okay.
You know what? Because I have experience looking at license plates of the day, I immediately look at it and go, "This is an Ontario license plate circa 1950." Right? The AI couldn't figure it out. Like it didn't have enough examples of Ontario license plates to come to a conclusion. Maybe if I used a California license plate or a New York license plate, it could have. But to a Canadian, this little blur here in the top, when I show this example to like an Ontario audience, everybody in the room immediately recognizes it because they've got the context, they've got the history to see the crown that this little blurry blob represents. So we should all realize we never use these tools to the detriment and to minimize our own skills and our own background with any form of analysis and research. These are just tools. Sometimes they work amazing, and they can take people who are new to a field and raise up the floor by giving them access to some analytical skills and background that they don't have. And it takes the people who are great at it, it makes them faster and gives them somebody to support them. Like Randy said, I never saw the barrel. And like me, I never saw that sheet music. So it's an aid and assistant, not the answer.
I totally get that. I had an experience too where the focus of the photo was my dad as a baby on a blanket outside with his mother sitting next to him, and he was on his tummy. But the home was in the background, and I did zoom in, and it had in the window a white cross on a placard, like a little, about the size of a file folder opened up. And that was indicating that a nurse lived there. My dad was born in September 1918, right in the middle of the flu epidemic, the Spanish flu epidemic. And so I would have totally missed it had I not zoomed in as a person. And I had the ability. I haven't tried putting it through the chat. That would be really interesting to see if it picks up on that. I should
Mhm,
try that and
mhm.
let you know.
Oh, yeah. I will often, when I'm doing an analysis, again, that's the human part. I will regularly take a photo, chop it up, zoom in on pieces to the exclusion of everything else, kind of focus in on a particular tree in the forest to learn more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like here's another example of a tombstone that's a really important tombstone in my family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we can see here again as an aid to my own eyeballs, help me go faster. It not only recognized it as a headstone for multiple members of my family, but it was actually able to transcribe the if I take a look, there's a close up of the headstone. It
Yes.
was it's at an angle, and you can see it's actually, even with human eyeballs, it's a little bit difficult to read, but
Yeah.
it had no difficulty going in and transcribing the information off of the headstone, and had some comments about the granite that I could follow up on, had some comments about the shape that I could follow up on. And even though I, of course, need to confirm that did the transcription correctly, and it did,
Mm-hmm.
um, just the mechanics of doing it as a task made my job easier, because I could copy and paste it into my research log, confirm it with my own eyeballs, and get on with my task.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You know, Frank is in the wings, and he is saying he might have a follow-up conversation with the chat saying, is that blob in the middle? What is that blob? Could it be a crown? And maybe that could then bring something forth
Chat
in
with your chat bot is so important to remember. If you've got an idea, put it in there and see what it comes up with. Frank's exactly right. Getting into the mode of getting into that conversation is
Mm-hmm.
part of the skill that we learn about how to use this tool. People who are really experienced with AI tools, they don't just do a one and done. You look at their chat threads, and there might be 15 questions back and forth. It's a conversation, not a query.
That's why they call it chat.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. All right, where are we in our thinking? Do I have comments from the community? Guys, post questions if you've got them while we've got Mark with us. I'd like to share my screen for a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead. I've anything else that this is gravy. I've kind of gone through all of the things that I wanted
Yeah,
to show, so I'm happy to take
it's
questions or have it go any way you'd like.
okay. I particularly loved the fact that we had this side by side. Here's your folder with your photos, and on the left side, that's where you were dealing with ChatGPT 4.0.
Yeah,
For
this
for
drag and drop is really useful.
oh
This was really hard to do a year ago or 18 months ago.
yeah.
Now it's like this is the value of building that custom GPT is you don't have to retype this big long, like everybody saw how long my prompt was. It was hundreds of words. And I thought
Mm-hmm,
about those words. I refined this prompt 40
mm-hmm,
times to get
mm,
it exactly the way that I wanted to. So it had
mm-hmm,
helped me in my genealogical workflow for photo analysis. And
mm-hmm,
then it's like drag, drop, click, right? It's a part of my process, not this extra thing that I go and do.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, let me pull this up. Got a question. Hi, Louis, another Canadian. I have a picture of two people in army uniforms from Russia about 1900. Would ChatGPT be able to identify the uniforms for him?
Um, it is very possible. That would depend upon a few things. How clearly how clear the uniforms were in the photo, and how frequently those photos appear in the training data that ChatGPT was trained on. And so there's a really important thing to remember when you use ChatGPT, when you use any of the large language models. They are trained on essentially all the words and all the pictures. That's the simple way to say it. Where's the training data come from? Everything that has ever been made publicly available is likely to be included in the training data. So if the thing that you're showing it, that you're asking it a question about, is highly likely to be found on the public internet, you might not know what it is, but you might know that this is highly available information. Like I might not know what DNA segment triangulation is, but I might know that there's a whole bunch of great bloggers who have written about it constantly. I might not know that this is a Russian uniform, but I know it's really clearly identified, and I can see marks that make it distinct. Like I might not know what the uniform is, but I know, oh, there's this hat that I've never seen before, this headdress I've never seen before. There's a bunch of badges that look regional. There's a bunch of epaulet work that looks entirely distinct. So I'm like, that's probably had photographs taken of it, and it's been described by somebody else who's way smarter than me. If you can see those things, even if you don't know what the answer is, and that information is likely to be available on the public internet, it's a really good candidate. If you look at it, I always kind of go, kid on beach, dog in park. These are not things that are distinct, right? So no AI is ever going to be able to infer amazing things from them. But if it looks distinct and it's likely that it's highly available on the internet, it's a great candidate for using AI for.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Jill's pretty happy. This is a good segment. It really was. Okay, so this is Making Family History. It tells you a little bit more about, this is your blog area, your web address. We've shared that several times. I'm sure Randy will do that for me. He's my link guy today. You'll want to follow that and use Feedly to subscribe to it. That way, we don't have to go to his blog except to see details or to comment. Okay, here's the Family History AI show homepage. So the most recent thing was The Empire Strikes Back. I love some of your titles. You guys have more fun working together.
We do.
It's all good.
Sometimes I want to record our prep because it's the best part of the show is us trying to figure out what we're going to talk about.
I get it. Okay, and there's that RSS podcast feed. If you right click and copy that link address and put it into feedly.com, then when they send something out, it's all you have to do is just go to Feedly, and you can pull in Randy's multiple blog posts in a day, etc. Whatever you subscribe to. Okay. This is something interesting that you'll want to know about, and Randy will share this link with you all. Here's 51 minutes on AI photo analysis. The Research Like a Pro gals have interviewed you, Mark. This was
my superheroes.
Oh, they're
Nicole and Diana are awesome. Research Like a Pro, they rock.
Yeah, totally. Now, I want to use their website as an example. I had to unsubscribe so I could do this demo. So you click subscribe, and then you hit it again so that you can get all of what they have. So when something new comes out, you get a notification down, when you're online in the lower corner here on the right, you'll get a notification that they've just published something. The other thing that really helps us that are content producers over here on YouTube, not only the subscribe, which is major. Notice how that bell changed. Let me show you again. It was at personalized when you first hit it. And I don't know what personalized means anymore. And I've asked, and nobody can explain that anymore. But anyway, that's the number one thing that helps them, the number of subscribers. And they've got approaching 3,000 subscribers. That is great. But the other thing is to give it a thumbs up. The third thing is to actually share it. And all you have to do is copy the link. And I'm going to put it in the chat right now, although Randy just did. There's that same link. Well, it's slightly different, but it'll get you there. You could also send it through these other methods, but we're just talking about copying and pasting the link to that particular episode. Okay, now Randy, let's bring you in on this conversation. This is your blog post where you use a chat to decide, this is our favorite photo. We love this photo. Where's the barrel? Is that this here?
Yes, that's it there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this photo, I actually it was pasted into a family history book from an Ohio county, one of those 500-page guys, the
Yeah.
early settlers of this county of Ohio.
Thank heavens.
And back probably when my grandfather was a young boy, a small boy, or his mother, they used that book as a scrapbook.
Oh,
Okay?
oh gosh.
And so
Okay.
this photo was pasted into it. So you can see where I've cut it out around the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. Right around the edge. Yeah.
And the prompt or the analysis actually noted that, it's not framed.
Yeah.
So I put that in and just said, please describe and analyze. And this is
Yes.
using Mark's custom prompt. So it's all those things that he talked about. I don't have to copy and paste that into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And so I got the answer, and then I copied it into my blog post here. And so it describes the house. It describes the handwritten inscription, but it doesn't read the name right as Keringer and not Corning.
Yeah.
But it was hard to read. I don't ding it for that.
Yeah.
And says, okay, the family members are positioned in the house, and so it analyzes that. Clothing suggests late 19th century. It was about 1900. My estimate based on the size of my grandfather in the picture. The horse-drawn carriage, it notes, the setting appears semi-rural or suburban. This was a time when there were only one or two houses on a block in San Diego. My prompt did mention it was San Diego. So
did it get it from the photo? Let's see. No. Corner of 30th and Hawthorne.
it just said that, yeah.
Must have, yeah.
And that's why I put San Diego in so that I wouldn't be confused or waste time trying to put in Hawthorne. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then it gave me points of uncertainty. Who exactly is in the photo? It's unclear whether that is H.A. Corning or if the whole family belongs to them. The date of the photograph, based on clothing and architectural style, likely dates from the 1890s. But it was waste not, want not, they wore clothes, and this is outdoors. Although it's a formal setting, it's formal clothing on them, except for the oldest person in the photo. And current status of the house. It would be interesting to see if the house still exists. Okay, and then some final thoughts, and that was good. So it didn't say anything about the people, the individuals. So I chatted, describe each of the people in the photo. Can you describe and analyze the house and the yard also? So that's two questions. And so absolutely, let's break it down. We'll look at the people, and then we'll look at the house and look at the yard. And so it identified all the people that it saw and described the clothing they were wearing and posture. And
very interesting.
And that was another young boy as my grandfather. Wears a knee-length outfit with long stockings. I hadn't looked at that. His clothing is for young boys. Appears relaxed, but is clearly aware of the camera. He didn't miss much, ever. And man standing on the porch.
Casual.
More casual, but he's in a suit. An elderly woman on the porch. In the center right, that's my grandfather's grandmother, Rebecca.
Wow.
I just wrote the song about this Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah. And
so.
And
then here's the
go back the important part here. After the elderly woman, the man in the hat standing near the porch railing is the grandfather of my grandfather. Okay, down more, one more. Okay.
Little girl.
The young girl is not a young girl. She's an older woman. It's the mother of my.
Let's look at the photo again.
Lyle's mother.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
She's in a not a formal dress. Okay. So it's
Okay.
one on the far right, the woman on the far right there.
This one?
Yep.
Okay, as opposed to this young
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. So it's her mother. The
What a
woman on the right is the mother of the woman in the white dress.
mhm.
So it identified her as a young girl, probably because she wasn't big. She wasn't very tall. She looks like she's 5'3" or something like that. The face is older, but you can see how it might be considered a teenager. Say, because it was a lot more informal than the rest of them.
Right. Okay, cool.
Okay, and then the hallucination was the last person on the list there.
Okay.
And we,
Okay, this is the second part.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there. Man handling the horse and carriage, far left. I don't see him. Maybe he's there, hiding somehow. Uh, but I sure don't see him.
I don't see him either.
Yeah, maybe the bush in the background, or I have no
I
idea.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Mark said, you have to, use your eyes and wisdom and did I miss that? Well, I don't think I did.
Copy and paste at your peril.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. Yeah. Very good point. And so it described the house and Victorian influences, wraparound porch. It was a great porch. Windows with ornamental awnings.
Okay, let's see. Oh yes,
Yeah,
I guess they could call it. We call that gingerbread.
yeah, it gingerbread the whole thing.
Yeah,
Uh, my grandfather built this house. My great grandfather, Lyle's
I
father,
remember this.
built this
Yes,
house, and in all these corners, they aren't square corners.
I
They're
see.
they're beveled corners
Yeah.
uh, throughout the house. That was always one of the beautiful parts about the house was that
Yeah.
it it was like that. Um, and if you look, when they rebuilt it, they actually moved this house to the middle of the block and
Oh,
put staircase up the in this case the backside of it, and took out the internal spiral staircase in the middle of it, the one the
oh,
widows walked, and made it 2 apartments. I grew up in the upstairs apartment, so I know that house intimately. Um, and
it's
it was,
absolutely incredible.
yeah, it's fantastic.
All right.
So I know who all those people are, and it talked about the yard, and the house is only 3, 4, 5 years
Ex-
old at this point in time. They built it in 1897, 98, something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and so there isn't much shrubbery yet. By 1920, there's a lot of shrubbery and trees and whatever.
Okay. Mickey can see that this is a person here in the far left. There might be a figure there.
Yeah.
It could be a hand and a chest and maybe a hat and a face we can't quite see right here. I don't know. Tony, our guy over there, I think he's still in Ireland, have really good application of AI, much better than the large language models, which seem to be trained on poor quality text. Imagine an AI trained on all the online family trees. Talk about hallucinations, Tony. Dear.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm not
Tony,
sure
I'm
we'd call
so
that good quality text.
yeah. But
Wheat
I
from the
get your
chaff.
point. I get your point, Tony. And I'm so glad to hear from you. Gosh, it's like old home week, like from the founders of Better Jedcom. Oh, anyway. All right. Well, Randy, thank you. This has been a very informative discussion. And Jill, thank you for bringing this forward. Mark, thanks for coming to visit us. And go back and continue recuperating. This is a great thing about being able to meet virtually. You haven't infected us with anything more than absolute enthusiasm for using AI to look at historical photographs and analyze them for us, even if it does put an extra person in this in the photo. It's all good. All right, so let me see what we've got next. Oh yeah, I want to show you a video. I got an announcement, and Frank, you can take everyone to the wings for a little bit. And I got an announcement from My Heritage that they updated their DNA ethnicity estimate. Boy, is that an abrupt shift from talking about AI to doing DNA, yeah, and ethnicity estimates. Can you hear it? Good. It's just a minute long. That'll help you with the Swedish, Joe. Armenian, Persian. Oh my gosh. (2,114) ethnic groups. 3 updates. Wow, that's pretty cool stuff, isn't it? Pretty darn cool
Hi,
stuff.
this is Matt Baker, and today I'm going to talk
Okay,
about.
I think we want to pause that. All right. Yeah. So where are we? Oh, Sherry is saying thank you to Mark for triggering our imagination on all of this. We're getting feedback, Mark. Yes, thank you, Randy. I know it says Dear Myrtle's archive, but Randy's the one who sends all the links over to you. Sometimes Frank helps, but he's my co-host today. I couldn't get anything done if it weren't for you guys helping. Um, it used to be me and cousin Russ, and now all the panelists chip in here. Okay, what's next on the docket? Ah, yeah. Here's something I've got to bring up, and that is our good friend Nika Smith. Um, she has been recognized. Let me zoom in here because that's kind of dinky. There we go. You know, she does. Am I sharing my screen yet? Probably be good if I did. Yeah, let's zoom in all the way. She was only going to try to find 250 folks enslaved, shedding lights on 10 generations of African Americans, and now she's hit the 10,000 individuals mark. And she is a consummate researcher, paper trail researcher, good at inferential genealogy, good at understanding DNA. This is her Facebook page. Thank you for sharing that. I want y'all to know that on Tuesday, that's only tomorrow, you're going to want to tune in for that. So this is a public post. You can follow and click on this, and it'll take you to the information for tuning in to that and finding out more about that. Okay, what else have we got on the docket? Yeah. So many things to talk about here. Oh, Daniel, let's get you and Dan up on the screen. We'll pull you up. We got to talk about my Substack for a little bit. So if you, Frank, could you bring them up, please? Thank you. Okay, so we've started talking about Substack a little bit. And it's not new. It's been around for about 2 years, to my understanding, the research I did. But it's come to our attention, those of us here in the United States, a number of the uh, Washington Post regular columnists who decided to leave for political reasons have taken up Substack as a way to produce and push content out in blog format and also in video format. And so I want to talk with Daniel about it from a writer's point of view. And we want to go tweak my Substack if we have time. Let's see, how is our time? Oh, we're going to not be tweaking my Substack. So we've had a wonderful time visiting about a very important topic already. So from a writer's point of view, Daniel, and we've had some private conversations about this, there are a variety of places where a person can, compose a post and get it out there for the world, for Google to search it, for AI to pick up on it. Talk to me about where you are in your thinking with the use of Substack.
So what I mainly use Substack for is just to, I suppose, write the blog that I do. Granted, it's a bit dusty because I've not written on it recently, but
We've been busy,
it's
but yeah.
yeah, college does do that and everything else that I'm doing. But that's another whole thing. But no, with what I use it for is I use it to, I suppose, write about things because it was weird because I used to not like blogging years ago, or I gave a good stab at it and I just could not manage it. But
Was
I
it
tried.
was it
What were you
because of
saying?
the interface, like WordPress was a pain, or you couldn't do what you wanted over in Blogger and columns didn't look right? What was the
Yeah,
problem?
there was an awful lot of that where it was sort of, you wanted something that looked nice to read. You wanted something that was, I suppose, easy to use. Because after a while, I got sick of WordPress because I'd be spending more time trying to put in blocks and to make things work and to try and, I suppose, get it working. I'm fine if it's an actual website. If it's a blog, I just seem to just go like, no, that's too complicated. And with me and what I do is I just like simplicity, and I like people who read my stuff to find things simple to read. So Substack is handy in the sense that it is a website, as you can view it on a web version, or you can get posts if you subscribe via email or the Substack app delivered to your phone, and you can read it on your phone, in your email, wherever you like. And there is some form of, uh I suppose, peace, because that when you send that out, that is going to be going to people. It's not a case of you're then having to promote it on other platforms and then go, oh, I have to hope that the algorithms are my friend today, or that they will actually push my content to people who follow me. Because on some platforms that I use, it really doesn't work, because whatever way I do it, algorithms might go like, nah, not really in the mood to share that, or not really in the mood to
Well,
push it further.
let me mention two things to that regard. One advantage of Blogger is that Google owns it.
Yeah.
And I'd mentioned that within 5 minutes of my posting something there, my old blog that I started in 95 or some ridiculous previous century thing, I would get a Google alert for the unique character string "Dear Myrtle" pushed together, not two separate words. So that was pretty much me. And then I could see if anybody else was writing. So I knew it was getting, I don't think Google was around in 95, but I digress. Anyway, but a lot of people are posting content on Facebook exclusively. And that is definitely problematic for exactly what you're talking about. I'll make a post in my Dear Myrtle group, and it will tell me that 167 people out of 6,500 could see it, had been told about it or notified. It came up in their feed somehow. That's pretty crappy. Did I say
Yeah,
that word?
and No, it is, and that's a perfectly good word to use because I mean,
It's a
I'm,
grandma kind of word to use as opposed to other
it
words.
is,
Oh,
it is, but at the same point, at the same time, it's a perfectly valid, statement to make because I did find that with, the former bird place, when the new
yes.
management came in, I definitely found that whenever I did share a direct link to my post, less than 100 people view my tweet with the link. So, as someone with or who has almost, I think, 8,500 on there, it's like, okay, it's not really going
Mhm.
anywhere.
That's not good
So,
percentage at all.
no.
And
So, in
and he
hindsight, sorry.
no, no, I don't mean to walk all over you. I think the new owners wanted you to pay,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then you would
probably.
have more access. And yeah, we're trying to use free tools, and but then, well, we're not getting into the politics of it. Otherwise,
And
I'm moving to Ireland next week. We're considering it seriously. um, okay, so we're getting the point. There's two things from the writer's point of view. What we're what we have what the algorithms have permitted our audience, even our dedicated audience, to see. But also, the other aspect is people are moving off of X onto other things. We've experimented with threads and we've already been on Instagram, and Blue Sky is a thing, but you can only have so many characters. You can't do a whole long blog post. Um, I have learned if I post a long whatever on Facebook and it's tied to Instagram and threads, Instagram will let it take all the text. But if I tried to post all the text on Instagram as a description of a graphic, it wouldn't take it there. Little tricks you learn. So then we have this Substack place, and I'm going to share my screen. And I don't know actually if these are people that I follow or they have prioritized for me.
so that, as far as I know, I'll actually go into mine so that I can follow along with you. I
Yeah,
believe that is a place where if you subscribe to any, let me see.
I do
Yeah, that
subscribe
should,
to Ruth and
yeah,
Letters from American, Jim Acosta. I don't. Oh yes, one useful thing, I for comic relief, the Borowitz report, and that's a thing that I think got stuck there by Substack. But I do
yeah.
recognize these are
So
people I subscribe to,
yeah, so
but not
I
all of
opened
them.
up. Yeah, I opened up mine, and
Do you want to?
essentially,
Yeah,
they are kind of unseen posts that I haven't looked at yet.
yeah,
So, that's what that tends to be. And you got like a little, I suppose, following. So you can see you have Robin Stewart, who had reposted or restacked, as they call it on this platform. Was It's sort of like a little, how do you put it, timeline of stuff relating to who you follow, and you got like little notifications there, so you can see,
yeah.
you got Paul Hawthorne who
I
follow
know
you
some of
there,
these
and
people. Yeah.
you can subscribe to their kind of blog if you want to, and if there's some I suppose contacts that I don't
Hmm.
tend to put my contacts on places, but you can if you wish. And it tells if they're on Substack, and you can go and follow them and all that, and it's really handy. And you can just follow along, or you can subscribe to their blog if you want to follow that as well. um uh and
Um.
then
Okay.
you do. Yeah. So essentially, what that is it's a setting I disabled on mine, but when you set up a Substack originally, you can choose to accept pledges, which are kind of a way of generating income on Substack. And
Okay.
I have that turned off because it's not something I plan to do. I mainly write for the love of it and to just kind of share research. And for what I want Substack to do, I don't, I suppose, turn on the ability to have pledges. But if I wanted to do so myself, I can, and I just do that under my dashboard.
All right. So
My
do I
dashboard
look
thing.
you up by Daniel or Project Kin or both? Or what do we do?
You should just be able to type in my name and I show up there. Oh yes. Yeah, there. So you got me, that pops up. So you can see the main blog that I write, and what you just did recommend. And it's one of the things I really like about Substack is if there are blogs that you follow on Substack that you enjoy and want other people to know about, you can recommend them. And it's a means of people finding other blogs to what you enjoy. So for example, Leuven Rees, who's down there, I really like her blog because she's a historian in Wales and she writes really well. And the way she tells the stories, I find very engaging. So I like following along with her posts. So yeah, she's definitely worth subscribing to if you don't already. But you can see how many people subscribe. So, and it tells you if you have any mutual subscribers as well. So you can see some of the people that you follow or subscribe to on Substack also subscribe to Leuven, because I was showing up in the third circle there, and then it's just a little timeline, and there was me shouting to the roof about our last Mondays with Myrt, where I had tagged Robin Stewart and Barbara Chen. And yeah, it's a really handy tool.
All right. So when I want to start publishing, which I have not done, I have to agree. And this you would have to do. I never read all these privacy policies. I know they're all about the same and they're all in gobbledygook. I'm probably signing away my life. But I have 7 subscribers. Okay. I didn't know that. And if I wanted to do a post, there's the video option or a podcast audio post or just
now,
a note or a new. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I should also just discern between here. So when we see the words post on any of those, so a text post, a video post, or an audio post, there's what we call a blog post. If you wanted to do the thing where, you restack something or you saw in that little timeline that I was on about, that's called a note. So a note is kind of like if you're making a post on Facebook and you were sharing it to your friends.
Okay, something little. A link.
Yeah.
All right, let me see what the text post looks like. Oh, it looks like a normal thing. You put the title, you put the subtitle, and you start writing. And you can insert, okay, this is normal. This is like email, guys. Subject line. Yeah, there's add a photo, a link, bold italics, strike through, which I've had to do a lot lately in my mind. Add a subscribe button, bulleted list, numbered list. Okay, so this is pretty normal. Yeah, we could look at certain codes, but we don't even have to get into that. It's just fill in the blank, basically. So if I wanted to add an image, I may have already, like if it's a Mondays with Myrt logo, it's always there once I have it in my gallery. Is that true?
So the gallery in that thing would be if you wanted to add in multiple photos for people to view at once, you can have 9. Yes.
Yeah.
So for that post that you want to share, it's not like saved anywhere inside the blog. So like each post is just their own standalone post.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. And then we'll find. All right. So from a writer's point of view, this was pretty easy. When I was at my Substack, not counting stacking all these other people that I follow, I can create from my dashboard a new post that could be text, video, audio, or the quickie new note, or start a whole new thread. Thank you for my link to my Substack. I didn't know it. It's all good. All right. So what we've done, and we don't have very much time, and I am so thrilled with how today's conversation has gone because we needed to spend that time. I'm not going to talk about the stacking part, which is, I think, where I would have been speaking with Dan. Let's see. Karen is saying that would be great for the 52 ancestors writing to go. And Paul is saying that looks like an old live journal setup in there. Okay. Valerie's still, Mark is in the wings. He's still reading your comments. So thank you for that. Hoping you will come back again. I mean, they could totally come in. He and or Steve could come anytime they want. Here's the actual question. Would it be okay to keep her WordPress blog? Maybe Dan can answer this. Um, uh,
Yeah, definitely. It would be okay. It's something that you can do. That there would be no uh, issue with it at all. Does it go against kind of the best practices of publishing on the internet? Maybe a little bit, but I think while it's generally probably advised to keep all of your web publishing and similar form content in one place. I think it's definitely a way to get started in Substack. So start by kind of copying some of your existing posts and get used to the Substack ecosystem, and then see if it works for you and go from there.
okay, and I would do this. I would take a significant, and Ellen's telling me we're at the 10-minute mark. Thank you, Ellen. I would take a couple of sentences, the title, a couple of sentences to quote, and the link, and I'd make it a note. I wouldn't actually copy and paste the whole blog over there because I think that actually works against your search engine optimization when you do that. Yeah, thank you. Dan shaking his head, yes. See, Myrt does know a few things. Yes, Daniel.
I was also just going to add in, if you wanted as well, you can also have Substack as a blog archive, because one of the functionalities that Substack also has is you can import your blog posts from another platform, and WordPress is one of them because I've done it myself. And you can export your blog posts from WordPress and you can import them to Substack, and it creates a nice little dated archive which you can go through. Because I've done it, and I can search my old blog posts, and they've actually come over, I think, quite well. So, as far as I know, but I'll scroll and talk. But essentially, it works quite well in terms of it formats it really well. It doesn't sort of, I suppose, the formatting goes a bit doolally in it. Like I just looked at one now. It brings over all of the content of the post. The one post that I'm looking at had a tweet embed in it, and obviously since the new changes, it doesn't bring that over. But apart from maybe one or two small little changes, it comes over pretty well.
All right. Okay. I would say that Substack has RSS pushing capability. Blogs do, but a person has to subscribe to it. I have to do a demo of Feedly so that I've got to make a sticky note. Where's my tablet? Here it is. I don't like reading stuff in email. Other people do, but I don't. I like to get in the zone and go to Feedly and click on quilting, and then I'm only looking at my quilting blogs that I follow. Whatever it is. So because I'm getting too much email. I mean, years ago I used to say 700 emails a day that are from people, not companies trying to. That goes to a different folder. And I think it's down to maybe between 400 and 500 emails a day. All I can do is look at subject lines and see trends, and then I know what to talk about. Like, people are very interested in Substack lately, so we're talking about it. People are interested in AI, etc. Tony has a good question. Will it allow tables, active footnote markers? That's a good question.
Yes,
Either of you?
so oh, sorry. I was going to say, I just replied to Tony and I said it does not allow tables, or at least not at this stage. They do add stuff every now and again, but it does do footnotes. I just tried it there, so it does work.
Okay. So that footnotes is pretty cool, as opposed to what I would do elsewhere is created in Word and fiddle around and, stuff like that. That was a big pain to get it over into a different blog platform. So that's a good question. I do want to say, let's see what else. Thank you for doing it. Now there are so many blogs now, it takes a lot of time to get through them all. And let me also mention this. I want to know what it is people want to talk about. It's not going to replace blogging at all. It's another tool you can use for blogging. Yeah, it's just another platform. But Blogger, well, let's say WordPress. WordPress doesn't have an integrated way to send out a podcast or send out a video. Substack does. Okay. Yes, on WordPress, I can have created a uh, a podcast or a YouTube video, but then I'd have to embed it over in WordPress. This is a more dynamic, multifaceted resource, so it's not just blogging. All right. I got to do a lightning round, and thank you guys so much. Let me pull up what it is we want, what other things I need to mention. And let's tweak my Substack and talk about stacking next week if we get a chance, okay? While you're on the screen, Dan, let's talk about your blurring tool.
Definitely.
Drew Smith made a big deal with me in a conversation back and forth from the squad about blurring tools can be unblurred. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate you. He saved my bucket. Oh, and Daniel, come back up. We'll talk about your blurring tool. Daniel, one of the
Yes.
problems with Blogger and YouTube is that when I talk about death certificates, we're supposed to use words like undead.
Yes. So there's
And
no real filter like that.
Okay, we're not seeing that over on Substack. Okay. That got old Myrt not in trouble. I was dealing with keeping, Mr. Myrt alive, and I didn't have cousin Russ to run pass interference anymore. And my nemesis, who lives in another country, and is an obscure blogger, reported tons of my blog posts and tons of my YouTube videos as inappropriate, even though on YouTube I've said it so it's under 18. It's not made for kids. Because we talk about death and we talk about racism historically, and we may have a screenshot of a letter where the N word is used, which was used historically. And people who know me and know the environment, and anybody doing genealogical research, knows that we don't use those kinds of words anymore. We don't even say that they were slaves. We use the word enslaved. They were enslaved people because they are people. And I can't deal with that. So Substack may become more exciting to me. I wish that StreamYard would stream to Substack because I like the controls that we have here for different screen layouts. Thank you for answering that, Daniel. Okay, Dan, let's talk about it never occurred to me that when we look at at a DNA screen um, over on Ancestry or MyHeritage, that and we're using your blurring tool,
Yep.
which is getting a lot of press. It was featured as a number. Uh, Tell me about that. How it was featured? Was
Yes.
it in the?
So the Chrome Web Store, which
Yes,
is
yes,
Google's um, distribution platform for
yeah.
Chrome extensions, they had featured it as one of their kind of recommended plugins for extensions for Google Chrome.
Yeah, which is a very specific thing to be honored, let alone for the blurring tool, which only genealogists would care about,
Exactly.
DNA geneticists. Anyway, Drew Smith brought up the topic, brought to my attention that a blur can be unblurred. And I'm like, criminy. With all the security issues the world has, if somebody wants to unblur, I mean, seriously, the point of blurring is to protect the photo and identifying information on living individuals. And your tool does that. But
Yeah.
what about this unblurring thing?
So you think of that as something like you would see in the CSI television program. There's a
Yeah,
guy on a computer and he types and he goes unblur, unblur this.
yeah,
But in reality, we're kind of getting close to that with the way that AI and machine learning operates. It can essentially kind of brute force and overlay characters and try and unblur an image.
I
And
can't believe it, but
that's
I believe it.
that's why it's important that software like mine included, it needs to more than just blurring the text, it also needs to modify the shape of the blurred text. And it needs to
Yeah,
do that in a random way.
yeah,
So my software in particular, it goes beyond just simply uh, kind of blurring out the text. So instead of just taking it out of focus, it does that, but it also manipulates the shape of the text. And in many cases, it even replaces the text. So it will replace DNA names with, for example, something like match one, match two, which it does a twofold thing. It allows you to speak to your matches. So you can say, in a presentation, this is match one, this is match two, and it's not just, you're not referring to elements that are blurred out. It's something that somebody viewing the presentation can actually see. And it also physically replaces the image, so it just doesn't have to be blurred at all.
yeah. So am excited about the blurring tool, and because I don't ever talk about my ethnicity estimates and talk about my DNA live because I do live presentations, and without a blurring tool, and there are several, but I use yours, um, to be able to blur on the fly.
Hmm.
Is the point of it. But for bloggers or people, ordinary folks that are telling their family history and why they're related now, proving this relationship because of a cousin connection, etc. If you do a screen capture and want to include that with the blurring tool having done its job, then you can use that image in your blog post. And we want to do that because of preserving the right to privacy. It's also one of the many genealogy standards that have been codified by the Board for Certification of Genealogists in their book, Genealogy Standards, 4th edition revised. And we just want to play nice in the sandbox. So I appreciate that you've updated and taken into account that somebody's going to come along and want to unblur my screenshot. I just
Definitely,
can't
yeah.
imagine.
I think you're right. It really is. It's a valuable tool to really empower people to not have to learn editing software, especially when you're making videos, because content moves on a screen when you're making a video,
Yep,
and that's some of the best content that you can share. It's really engaging content for viewers. So I think it's really important to encourage people to put their content out there.
I get it. All right. So Drew's response, because you couldn't see his post, and so I was kind of a broker back and forth between. And he said, well, I still can't use his blurring tool because he puts specific information in the notes about an individual. And he says it doesn't blur the notes. And I'm like, okay, Drew. Now, I love Drew Smith and George Morgan, the the genealogy guys. Um, but to me, I don't I don't put my notes there. I put my notes I just go to Ancestry, get things, and put it in my own computer way, with Excel, etc. I don't put that kind of thing there. I would say if you were to do something to blur notes, that should be an on-off option. I don't know if that's more
Exactly.
it is.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Some people may put personal information in their notes, personal identifying information. Some people may not. Some people may use that section only for their screencast. So they could put information that is non-personal in that section.
That
So
you'd want.
that's part of the beauty of being a builder and a developer is that can be a switch. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's something easy and which is coming as well to be able to really choose what you want to blur to meet your own kind of preferences.
Mhm. Okay, well, we have had a wonderful conversation. I want to thank the panelists for being here today. We haven't even begun to talk about all the other things I wanted to share with y'all today. This every other week is good for me, but not good for the fact that things keep happening in the world of genealogy. And it's hard to decide what to talk about, but I hope that you all who have attended today have enjoyed it. This has been a very informative Mondays with Myrt. Thank you, Frank, for being my co host. Thank you, Jill, Randy, Ellen. Thank you for being my timer. I'm going to have like a 1 minute break between Mondays with Myrt and starting book club. And let me just bring that up for a second here. Um, we are we're working on chapters 3 and 4. Uh, Randy, can you share the link to the homework? It's a different link this week, and I would appreciate that. I can't get there from here. Okay. Um, Yeah, I'll give him a second to send it out there. Great show, so much, very interesting. Thank you. Sometimes you just have to slow down. Yeah, I've had a number of um, unex- unanticipated surgery things and family things, and everybody's doing fine. Can we not find that link? All right. Um, there it is. If you just printed out the homework, you would be surprised what what it is we're talking about during our book club this week. Of We talk about 2 chapters, but there's only 3 homeworks, and they are only allowed 1 quote. So yeah, this is the very tip of what you could be learning from Dr. Thomas W. Jones. All right, folks, nothing left to say, but thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a good week. 2 weeks. I will see you later, alligator. I'm Dear Myrtle, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.